Good morning, children. In our last video, we have learned about oogenesis. In our today's video, we will be learning about menstrual cycle. Menstrual cycle is the reproductive cycle in female primates. Example, monkeys, apes, and human beings. Menstruation is the term given to the periodic discharge of blood, tissue fluid, and mucus from the reproductive organs of sexually mature females. The flow usually lasts from 3 to 6 days each month and is caused by a sudden reduction in the hormones estrogen and progesterone. The first menstruation begins at puberty and is called menarche. The menstrual cycle stops at around 50 years of age in human females, and this stage is called menopause. During the menstrual cycle, the uterus endometrium prepares itself for implantation. Implantation means attachment of the embryo. Right, so uterus endometrium prepares itself for implantation of a fertilized egg. If fertilization does not occur, the uterus lining is shed from the body. That means the uterus lining breaks and it is removed out of the body. In human females, menstruation is repeated at an average interval of about 28 to 29 days. One ovum is released in the middle, usually on the 14th day of each menstrual cycle. The cyclic menstruation is an indication of normal reproductive phase and extends between menarche and menopause. The cycle of events starting from one menstruation till the next one is called menstrual cycle. One ovum, as I said earlier, is released during the middle of each menstrual cycle, that is on the 14th day. The menstrual cycle consists of 4 phases. First one is the menstrual phase, which is also called the bleeding period. Second is the follicular phase, before the egg is released. Third is the ovulatory phase. And the fourth one is the luteal phase. In the ovulatory phase, there is release of the egg, and luteal phase is after the release of the egg. Here you can see menstruation, which lasts for 3 to 6 days, then follicular phase, second phase, then ovulation, which is the release of ovum, and lastly the luteal phase. This is the graph which shows the cyclic events that occurs in the human females. I'll be explaining you along with the different phases. The first phase is the menstrual phase or the bleeding phase. The cycle starts with menstrual phase and it lasts for about 3 to 5 days. And there are various events involved in the menstrual phase, like if fertilization does not occur, the unfertilized egg undergoes autolysis, means breakdown, self-breakdown. Second is reduction of LH causes regression of corpus luteum by autolysis and thus a consequent fall in the progesterone level in the blood. The endometrium lining of the uterus breaks down due to the deficiency of progesterone and is sloughed off. Blood vessels rupture, causing bleeding through vagina. The process is called menstruation or menstrual flow. It occurs only when ovum is not fertilized. See, if fertilization does not occur, the unfertilized egg will get degeneration, that is, autolysis will take place. Then there will be reduction in LH. Okay, in the LH, that is, the LH level will decrease slowly and gradually. It will decrease. You can see here it decreases. Because of that, there will be degeneration of the corpus luteum, and due to this degeneration of the corpus luteum, there will be consequent fall in the progesterone level. You can see there is decrease in the progesterone level. Okay, and due to that, the endometrium layer, here you can see the endometrium lining of the uterus breaks down and it is removed out, causing the bleeding. So this phase is called the menstruation phase. Here you can see the cycle again starts, first day, second day, like that. Okay, so that is about the menstrual phase or the bleeding phase. Second phase is the follicular phase, which is also called the proliferative phase. It lasts for about 14 days and it involves different events. It follows the menstrual phase. Okay, the different events are the primary follicles in the ovary grow to become a fully mature Grecian follicle. Okay, here you can see there is development of the follicles. Okay, the follicles grow. Okay, so primary follicles, they grow in the ovary and becomes the Grecian follicle in the follicular phase. Then simultaneously the endometrium of the uterus regenerates. Okay, here this is the phase, first phase, menstrual phase, and in the follicular phase there will be regeneration. Again there will be formation of the endometrium layer in the uterus. Okay, then the changes in the ovary and the uterus are induced by changes in the levels of pituitary and ovarian hormones. Okay, these changes that occurs in the ovary, that is follicular development, and the endometrium layer development, it takes place because of the changes in the level of the pituitary hormones, that is FSH and LH, and the ovarian hormones, that is estrogen and progesterone. Okay, mainly FSH and estrogen. Clear? The secretion of gonadotropins, that is FSH and LH, increases gradually. Here you can see there is increase in FSH and LH during this phase and stimulates. Because of that, there will be follicular development. The primary follicle will grow and will get converted into the Grecian follicle, as well as there will be secretion of the estrogen. Estrogen will be secreted by the growing follicles. Then after that, the next phase is the ovulatory phase. Both the LH and FSH, which is being secreted, attain a peak in the middle. Here you can see it attains a peak. If I show you the diagram, this diagram, here you can see there is peak in LH and FSH. Okay, so in the middle of this cycle, that is on the 14th day, this is the 14th day, on the 14th day there is peak of LH and FSH. Okay, now rapid secretion of LH leading to its maximum level during the mid cycle is called LH surge. It induces rupture of Graafian follicle. Can you see on the 14th day when LH has attained the peak, there is rupture of the Graafian follicle and there is release of the ovum, which is called ovulation. Clear? Then the ovulatory phase is followed by the luteal phase. The phase, that is luteal phase, lasts for about 10 days and it involves different events like the Graafian follicle. The remaining parts of the Graafian follicle, it transforms into Corpus luteum. The Corpus luteum secretes large amount of progesterone essential to maintain endometrium. The endometrium is necessary for implantation of the fertilized ovum and other events of pregnancy. During pregnancy, all events of the menstrual cycle stop and there is no menstruation. In the absence of fertilization, the corpus luteum degenerates. This causes disintegration of endometrium leading to the menstruation. Clear? Now, as only the basal part of the endometrium persists, which forms the source of new lining, and a new cycle starts. Again, let us see this diagram. Right, what happens after the ovulatory phase? The remaining part means the whatever is being. Yes, here if you see, after ovulation, the remaining part of the Graafian follicle get converted into the corpus luteum. The corpus luteum secretes large amount of progesterone. So you can see there is increase in the level of progesterone here in the luteal phase. Okay, and due to that the endometrium layer of the uterus gets maintained. And this endometrium layer is necessary for implantation of the fertilized egg or ovum and other events of the pregnancy. During pregnancy, all these events of the menstrual cycle will stop and there will be no menstruation. But in absence of fertilization, the corpus luteum will degenerate, means it will break. And due to degeneration of the corpus luteum, the endometrium layer will get disintegrated and due to that there will be menstruation. Now moving to the next topic, that is fertilization. The discharge of semen, that is the fluid that contains the sperms, by the penis into the female's vagina close to the cervix during coitus is called insemination. The motile sperms move through the cervix, enter the uterus and reach the junction of the isthmus and ampulla of the fallopian tube. The ovum released from the ovary also reaches the ampullary isthmic junction where fertilization takes place. Fertilization can only occur if the ovum and sperm are transported simultaneously to this junction. So this tells us why all copulations do not lead to fertilization and pregnancy. The process of fusion of sperm with an ovum is called fertilization. A sperm during fertilization comes in contact with the zona pellucida of the ovum. You can see in the diagram given here. So sperm during fertilization will come in contact with zona pellucida of the ovum and induces changes in the membrane, because of which the entry of the other sperms will be blocked. This ensures that only one sperm can fertilize an ovum. It prevents polyspermy. The secretions of the acrosome, the cap-like structure at the head of the sperm, is the acrosome, right? So the acrosome will secrete its secretion, and that will help the sperms to enter the cytoplasm of the ovum through the zona pellucida and the plasma membrane. And because of this, at this stage you can see that the meiotic division of the secondary oocyte gets completed. The secondary meiotic division will result in the formation of the secondary polar body or second polar body and a haploid ovum. The haploid nucleus of the sperm and that of ovum fuse together to form the diploid zygote. The sex of the baby is decided at this stage. After fusion of the male and female gametes, the zygote would carry either XX or XY chromosomes depending on whether the sperm carrying X or Y fertilized the ovum. The zygote carrying XX would develop into female baby and XY would form a male baby. Okay. This diagram shows the fusion of sperm and ovum. You can see here the zona pellucida layer is there. Okay, this is zona pellucida layer. The sperm head get embedded in the zona pellucida layer, and later there will be fusion of the nucleus of the ovum and that of the sperm. So that is called fertilization. Now fertilization and passage of growing embryo through fallopian tube, that is embryonic development. This diagram shows fertilization. First there is release of ovum. You can see here ovulation takes place, release of ovum from the Graafian follicle. The ovum will enter in the fallopian tube. Okay, at the ampullary isthmic junction, that is here, there will be fusion of male and female gamete, that is sperm will fuse with the ovum. Okay, and then the nucleus of the, here you can see nucleus of the egg and the sperm fuses, and it leads to the formation of a new structure which is diploid structure called the zygote. The zygote will undergo division, okay, and it will further undergo development. Okay, so the development of the embryo from fertilized ovum, it involves different events. The mitotic division starts as the zygote moves through the isthmic ampullary junction of the oviduct towards the uterus, forming 2, 4, 8, 16 daughter cells, which is called the blastomeres, and this stage is called the cleavage. During the cleavage, the young embryo is slowly moving down the fallopian tube towards the uterus, and the events which takes place are, number 1 is the embryo with 8 to 16 blastomeres is called morula. This is morula. You can see 2, 4, 8, 16 blastomere cell stage, that is morula is formed. Morula will further continue to divide and it gets transformed into blastocyst as it moves further in the uterus. You can see here the zygote moves from isthmus towards the uterus, right? And during this movement only there is division of the zygote. Mitotic division takes place, which leads to the formation of 2, 4, 8, 16 cell stage, that cells are blastomeres. Okay, and 8 to 16 blastomere cell stage is known as morula. Morula will again continue to divide and it gets transformed into blastocyst. Okay, and the blastocyst moves further into the uterus. It enters in the uterus. You can see it has entered in the uterus. This process of transformation is called the blastulation. The blastomeres in the blastocyst are arranged into 2 layers. The outer layer, you can see the outer layer and the inner layer. Okay, the outer layer is known as trophoblast, and the inner group of cells which is attached to the trophoblast cell is called the inner cell mass. The trophoblast layer then gets attached to the endometrium, and the inner cell mass will differentiate into the embryo. After attachment, you can see in this diagram the embryo has got attached. Okay, so after attachment, the uterine cells divides rapidly and covers the blastocyst. As a result, the blastocyst becomes embedded in the endometrium of the uterus. This is called implantation, and it leads to pregnancy. So children, that is all for today. In our next video, we will be learning about pregnancy. I hope this is clear. Thank you.